I gave birth on the same day as consort Rong. I watched helplessly as she switched our children, yet I remained silent. The emperor always blamed consort Rong for spoiling the fourth prince, Zhao, yet rewards still flowed like water into Jingshou Palace. When it came to me, he always repeated the same few words: "There's no need to be so harsh on the crown prince." In private, consort Rong and I exchanged a hurried glance. How could he be prepared without strictness? In my past life, my child was never swapped with consort Rong's, yet he proved a hopeless mediocrity. Barely 3 months after ascending the throne, he was shot dead by rebels while seated upon the dragon throne. Consort Rong's child, born with the bearing of a wise ruler, ultimately met his end on the grasslands beyond the frontier. When I opened my eyes again, my body felt utterly limp, and the bedchamber was completely empty. Just as I was puzzling over this, hushed voices suddenly came from behind the screen. "Has the Empress not woken yet? Quickly, bring the child over." It was consort Rong, Su Mingyue's voice. The wet nurse by her side, Qing, hesitated. "Your Highness, please reconsider. If this is discovered, it could cost us our heads." "What is there to fear?" Consort Rong's tone was resolute. "Tonight's guards have all been reassigned, and the palace attendants have been dealt with. Heaven knows, earth knows, you know, I know. If I don't do this, I'll be the one who meets an untimely end." A rustle of fabric followed by the faint sound of 2 infants being swapped. Footsteps drew near. Consort Rong, cradling the child, slipped around the screen. I hastily closed my eyes, feigning sleep. "Your Majesty. Do not blame me. I had no other choice." My heart lurched, but then I heard her whisper to the infant in her arms. "This time, Mother will make sure you both live." After she hurried away, I forced myself to sit up and call for help. Only after a long while did Lanxiang stumble in, her hair disheveled, tears still streaking her face. "Your Highness. Some thieves, no one knows who, knocked us all unconscious. Chunmei and the others are still lying unconscious outside the palace gates." She rushed to the cradle. Seeing the child unharmed, she collapsed to the floor. "Thank heavens the prince is safe." I shook my head silently. Su Mingyue remained as reckless as ever, daring to bribe her cousin on duty to withdraw the guards, then knocking out everyone in my palace. "Bring the child to me." When Lanxiang placed the swaddled infant in my arms, and I saw the rice grain mole behind its earlobe, I knew for certain. Su Mingyue had also been reborn. Consort Rong's due date should have been half a month after mine. Who could have imagined she would deliver today, alongside me? Rumor had it she had mistakenly consumed incompatible foods, triggering premature labor. I was quietly pondering how to swap these 2 infants born just half a month apart. Yet she had already acted first. But her method was far too reckless. Though His Majesty is usually gentle-tempered, if he learned someone had swapped the imperial sons, his wrath would surely be uncontrollable. I summoned Lanxiang and ordered her to keep today's events confidential. Lanxiang was puzzled. "Your Highness, should we not capture and interrogate the culprit?" I replied, "Perhaps the person only sought profit. If we launch a large-scale search, we might drive them to desperate measures. Your Highness considers everything thoroughly. Then we shall investigate discreetly." The Emperor was detained in the imperial study tonight by that group of ministers. Trouble has erupted again at the frontier. They say a rebel traitor bearing a striking resemblance to the late Crown Prince Zhao Yan has risen, claiming to restore order. He has spread rumors far and wide, declaring the current emperor's throne was obtained through foul means. That it was gained by poisoning the late emperor. In just 2 short months, chaos has already begun to stir among the people. The late Crown Prince had been breathtakingly brilliant, eloquent in speech, and deeply cherished by the late emperor. He was frequently consulted on state affairs in court. Had it not been for the later discovery that the late Crown Prince's mother, Consort Zhou, had been unfaithful, the late emperor would likely have entrusted the throne to him long ago. The greatest scandal of all was that the late Crown Prince was not the late emperor's biological son. Enraged, the late emperor had the entire Zhou clan executed on the spot. The Crown Prince himself was poisoned to death in prison. Yet unexpectedly, he had faked his death to escape. The emperor arrived in hurried strides, looking as if fleeing a disaster. Seeing the infant sleeping peacefully in the cradle, he was overcome with joy and flustered. This was his first son. The previous two were princesses, and Consort Rong had just given birth to his fourth son. Empress, you have labored well to bear me a crown prince. I paused in surprise. Your Majesty intends to name him crown prince already? He was poking the infant's cheek with curiosity when he looked up. The child born to the Empress is naturally the crown prince. His voice grew wistful as if recalling something. Had my father not delayed naming an heir all those years, it might not have come to this. I understood the unspoken words. The late emperor had clearly favored the first crown prince, yet he allowed the princes to vie for the position, calling it training. Only the eighth prince at the time, Zhao Xiaoran, now the current emperor, voluntarily requested to be made a feudal prince, leaving the palace to live as the carefree prince of Shao. Who would have thought that the one who ultimately ascended the throne would be this most unambitious prince? The crown prince's name shall be. He pondered for a moment. Yin. What do you think? Zhao Yin. A weight lifted from my heart. In my past life, my child was also named Zhao Yin. Now, this name finally returned to its rightful owner, bestowed upon Consort Rong's child. Excellent. The emperor's gifts poured into the hall like flowing water. Yet within half a cup of tea's time, his gaze kept drifting toward the door. I feigned weariness. Your Majesty, perhaps you should visit Consort Rong. I hear she has also given birth to a son. He immediately rose, then forced himself back into his seat, his face stern. She's been reckless. Knowing she was pregnant, she insisted on eating all sorts of things, causing the child to be born prematurely. Thankfully, both mother and child are well. Watching his feigned severity, which couldn't hide his concern, I couldn't help but smile. Why put on such a show, Your Majesty? Go now. If you delay any longer, you might be turned away. The Empress dares speak such nonsense. I am the Son of Heaven. She dares? I smiled, watching his contradictory display. It was rather amusing. In this palace, Consort Rong was likely the only one who dared to shut the emperor out. Back when the Empress Dowager chose me as Crown Prince Consort, it was solely because my father held the rank of Grand General, First Class, and my maternal clan wielded considerable influence. Yet Zhao Xiaoran's heart remained with Su Mingyue, the daughter of the court historian. They had vowed to grow old together, but in the treacherous intrigues of the palace, the adult princes perished one after another. In the end, this carefree prince of Xiaoyao snatched the prize. On the day he was forced to marry me, Zhao Xiaoran wept uncontrollably while clutching an old hairpin. 2 months after our wedding, unable to bear seeing his perpetually swollen eyes, I took the initiative to bring Su Mingyue into the palace. He held me tightly then, vowing to honor and respect me for the rest of his life, never allowing anyone to wrong me. All these years, he has indeed kept his word. Even when court officials repeatedly accused my father of his achievements overshadowing the throne, he suppressed every memorial. After Su Mingyue entered the palace, her father, once known for his bold, truth-speaking in court, suddenly became as tight-lipped as a saw-toothed gourd. The emperor fidgeted, rubbing his nose. She has acknowledged her mistake. She must be terrified now. Then why aren't you going, Your Majesty? Yuanling, I'll be back soon. Relieved as if pardoned, he turned and nearly stumbled. By the time Lanxiang entered with the midnight meal, the emperor was already gone. Strange. Where is the emperor? I took the bird's nest soup. He went to see Consort Rong. I only prepared 1 bowl of bird's nest soup. Fortunately, Your Majesty couldn't sit still and left. She winked mischievously. But everyone in the palace knows Your Majesty listens to you most of all. Even Consort Rong obeys you most. My hand holding the spoon paused slightly. Yes. Su Mingyue truly listened to me most of all. In my previous life, Consort Rong never vied for favor, spending her days only in play and amusement. Whenever she had free time, she'd bring her child to my palace to bask in the sun together. Yet despite her carefree existence, she raised a son of astonishing brilliance. While I poured my heart and soul into cultivating a wise ruler, the crown prince remained stubbornly unruly. He stuffed crickets into the grand tutor's teapot and trimmed men's beards in the dead of night. I urged him to govern diligently. His father, the emperor, was merely average, he need only maintain the status quo. Yet the crown prince wavered indecisively, forever looking back and forth. In contrast, Consort Rome's son excelled in both literary and military prowess. Consort Rome urged him to seize the day, yet he stole most of his mother's savings to aid disaster victims. By the time Consort Rome discovered it, the treasury lay utterly bare. She wept bitterly in my chambers for half a day. After the late emperor's passing, my son ascended the throne. Within 3 months, the former crown prince stormed the capital, piercing my good-for-nothing son with countless arrows upon the dragon throne. At that time, Consort Rome's son was accompanying my father in battle against the enemy. He sent a message by carrier pigeon, urging us to flee immediately, saying he was racing back day and night to rescue us. But what we received instead was the dreadful news of his death in an ambush. The former crown prince's men surrounded the palace. That fool Consort Rome wept, begging to swap clothes with me. "Your Highness, let me die in your place. You've always been the resourceful one, there must be a secret passage in this hall, right? Hurry, escape." I stopped her. The end of the passage was already swarming with ambushers. The former crown prince, raised in the palace, knew every corner here. In the final moments, flames engulfed the hall. That Consort Rome, who would cry over a broken fingernail, shielded me fiercely with her body. She could have escaped alone. The late crown prince hated me more than any other consort. After all, I had once been betrothed to him. But upon learning he was not of royal blood, my family annulled the engagement. And so we embraced, consumed by the flames. Memories of the past surged like a tidal wave. Gazing at the sleeping crown prince in my arms, I made a silent vow. This lifetime, I would protect everyone I cherished. At daybreak the next morning, I heard that Consort Rome's son had been named E. With 2 imperial sons born in the palace, the emperor walked with renewed vigor and pride. Previously, court officials had pressured him to select consorts, citing his lack of heirs. Now, he could finally reject their demands with righteous indignation. "I have 2 imperial sons. How many do you have?" "I shall have 3, 4, 5, 6 more." After my confinement period ended, I was finally permitted to step outside the palace gates. When the consorts came to pay their respects, Consort Rome, ever the character, arrived cradling her child. The 4th prince was decked out in garish red and green, a huge silk flower pinned in his hair. My eyes twitched at the sight. Ugly. Yet, in my past life, this very son loved secretly pinning flowers in his hair and often flicked his sleeves imitating opera. The moment Consort Rome saw me, her eyes lit up. "Your Majesty, where is the crown prince? Why not bring him out for us to see?" The other consorts suppressed their laughter and bowed their heads, only the straightforward consort Liang spoke up. "Consort Rome, both the crown prince and the 4th prince are still in swaddling clothes. Why the rush to bring them out? Wouldn't it be good for the 4th prince and the crown prince to bond?" She chuckled awkwardly. I motioned for Lanxiang to bring the crown prince. Consort Rome craned her neck, her gaze fixed intently on the swaddled infant. "Your Majesty, the crown prince is truly handsome. Perhaps we could take turns holding him?" Consort Liang's eyes widened in shock. "You fool! What nonsense are you spouting?" I handed the crown prince to her and took the 4th prince myself. This child was even sturdier than the crown prince, sporting a heavy gold collar around his neck. "What is this?" "A gift from His Majesty. He said it would calm his nerves." Consort Rome remarked smugly, "Speaking of which, shouldn't His Majesty have bestowed a gift upon the crown prince as well? Why hasn't he been seen wearing one?" "He has," I replied indifferently. The gifts he bestowed were all rare volumes on statecraft, and the boy couldn't even read yet. The consorts in the palace were all former maids from the prince's mansion. They got along like sisters, with little scheming or intrigue. Everyone gathered around the 2 children, teasing and playing with them for half a day before dispersing. The gifts they brought were even more heartfelt than the emperor's. Whether it was a longevity lock or a peace knot, each piece radiated genuine affection. Father led his troops to rout the remnants of the former crown prince's forces, driving them back step by step. These past months, they seemed to have vanished entirely. But I knew he must be lurking in the shadows. In my previous life, I never uncovered his hiding place, not even at the very end. By the time he resurfaced, the crown prince had already ascended the throne. This time around, I had father keep a close watch on Lingnan early on. That region was the starting point for the former crown prince's comeback. He found an elderly palace servant to testify, claiming his birth mother was wrongfully accused and that he truly possessed the imperial bloodline. Time flew by, and 5 years vanished in the blink of an eye. Consort Roan and the fourth prince became the palace's professional truant duo. Today they'd sneak out to fish, tomorrow they'd slip away for countryside strolls. The Grand Tutor, unable to find them day after day, had no choice but to come complain to me. The Crown Prince's progress was even more remarkable than in my previous life. In my past life, Consort Roan feared he would outshine my son, stifling his talents at every turn. This time around, even when I tell him to rest, he secretly clutches his books and studies diligently. The Emperor finds this deeply gratifying, yet it also gives him quite the headache. The headache stems from the fourth prince being even more particular than his mother. At such a young age, he already finds his father's beard unkempt and his posture not quite straight enough. Each time they met, he'd remark, "Father has grown a bit rounder," making mother appear all the more graceful. I've had to smooth things over between this mother and son at least 100 times. The Crown Prince, however, would always drag his younger brother into the study after his playtime, patiently explaining the lessons taught by the Grand Tutor. Now, the fourth prince avoids me whenever he sees me, terrified of running into his elder brother. It's not just him who fears him, Consort Roan does too. The moment the Crown Prince frowns, both mother and son fall silent as if frozen by the coldest winter. The Emperor constantly blames Consort Roan for spoiling the fourth prince, yet gifts still flow into Jingxiu Palace like a river. When it came to me, he always repeated the same phrase, "There's no need to be overly strict with the Crown Prince." He always felt that the Crown Prince's prematurely mature demeanor was as if the late Emperor had possessed him, and even he himself felt inexplicably uneasy when he saw him. Seeing these two children, though vastly different in temperament, still treating each other with brotherly affection and respect, just as in my previous life, filled my heart with deep comfort. That day, Qing, the matron attending Consort Roan, rushed in, her face etched with anxiety. "Your Majesty, I'm truly at a loss. My two masters." Before I could speak, the Crown Prince, who had been practicing calligraphy, lifted his head. I quickly signaled to Qing with a glance. "What has happened to Consort Roan and the fourth prince?" The Crown Prince set down his brush to ask. Mei Qing forced herself to remain calm. "Your Highness, they are both well. I was sent to convey their regards to your Majesty." I stroked the Crown Prince's hair. "Continue your studies without worry. I shall speak with Mother and Mei Qing. When fourth brother returns." He pointed to the stack of books on the desk. "Please tell him these lessons assigned by the tutor must be completed on time." Gazing at the thick pile of assignments, I couldn't help but sigh inwardly. Even under Consort Roan's care, this child couldn't escape the relentless pursuit of studies. Only when we reached the palace gates did Lady Qing lower her voice. "Your Highness, Consort Roan and the fourth prince were dining outside the palace when their money pouch was stolen." "They're being held at the tavern?" Lady Qing nodded in despair. "What about the palace attendants?" "They were stolen along with the pouch." I pressed my hand to my forehead and sighed deeply. This entire party had been robbed clean. Hurry and fetch silver to ransom them. Get the palace exit token from Lanxiang. Under no circumstances must the Crown Prince. "Mother, I am already aware." The voice came from behind us, startling both Qing and me into a shudder. Gazing at the Crown Prince's stern young face, I turned to Qing with resignation. "Tell your master to seek his own fortune." In the end, the Crown Prince personally invited my father to the tavern to redeem them. Yet that pair of troublemakers, mother and son, hid at my maternal home, too afraid to return to the palace. For days, the Emperor was repeatedly turned away at Jingxiu Palace, assuming he had once again displeased Consort Roan, completely unaware that the palace had long been deserted. By the 10th day of hiding, the Crown Prince took the unprecedented step of requesting leave from the Grand Tutor and personally left the palace to retrieve them. Upon his return, he found the pair trailing behind him, their eyes red and swollen. The fourth prince, upon seeing me, immediately threw himself at my legs, wailing, "Mother! The Crown Prince is so terrifying." He piled homework on me like a mountain, saying I'd never leave the palace this lifetime if I didn't finish it all. Consort Rome also sniffled as she approached, tears glistening on her long lashes. Your Highness, you must judge fairly. The Crown Prince actually wants this humble servant to attend school too. At my age, am I supposed to sit with a bunch of little kids reciting the Tao Te Ching? What use is morality to me? I'm already a consort, what good is virtue? I'd rather the Emperor give me more jewelry. I twitched my lips, raising a hand to gently stroke the two pouting heads. Just as I was about to comfort them, the Emperor strode in, catching sight of his beloved consort and young son sobbing heartrendingly in my arms. He froze in the doorway, murmuring after a long moment. Is it because I arrived too late? I asked. What brings your majesty here? He cleared his throat, his gaze shifting. Has Consort Rome and the fourth prince misbehaved again? Well, Inger, since the punishment has been administered, perhaps. The crown prince stood ramrod straight, bowing slightly at the words, his voice icy. Father, are you suggesting we let it slide? The emperor immediately straightened, his tone stern and righteous. Let it slide? Not a chance. The Son of Heaven is subject to the same laws as commoners, and they are no commoners. He gave the two a meaningful wink. Now, back to your confinement. I'll deal with you properly. Later. Consort Rome, as if granted a pardon, pulled the fourth prince along and scampered out, beaming with delight. I motioned for the crown prince to continue to the study. Only after that small figure vanished behind the screen did I turn back to the emperor. So, what exactly brought your majesty here? He edged closer, his tone tinged with grievance. Empress, I am the emperor, after all. Why does every concubine in the 6 palaces keep flocking to you? What is going on? What was going on? I wasn't entirely sure myself. I recalled how, not long ago, the emperor had sent eunuch Yen to summon Consort Liang to attend him. At that time, Consort Liang had been sitting across from me, flipping her delicate fingers while cracking melon seeds. Upon hearing the order, she didn't even lift her head. Go back and tell His Majesty that I'm old and past my prime, my body isn't what it used to be, and I'm afraid I can't serve him well anymore. There's no need to think of me for this duty in the future. Eunuch Yen was dumbfounded. He looked to Consort Zhou beside him for help. Consort Zhou's face turned green as she waved her hands frantically. Eunuch, don't get me into trouble. I've got a mahjong game tonight. Missing one player is a major offense. On the other side, Consort Yen shook her head like a rattle drum. If I leave, we'll truly be one short. The sisters would tear me apart. Eunuch Yen questioned each of them in turn, yet not a single one was willing to attend the emperor. It wasn't that no one was willing at all. Occasionally, one who had gambled away her monthly allowance would volunteer to serve the emperor. With the reward she received, she could return to continue battling at the mahjong table. Your Majesty should ask them yourselves. Your servant truly does not know the reason. The emperor fell silent for a moment, then suddenly touched his waist and muttered under his breath. Could it really be as Forth said? That my figure has become terribly distorted? My hand, poised to serve tea, paused slightly. The emperor was actually only a year older than me. Yet in my previous life, he passed away at just 40. The imperial physicians diagnosed a slow-acting poison, yet they could never determine when or by whom it had been administered. Upon my return, I launched a thorough investigation. I scrutinized every detail of his attendants, even examining every item they handled daily, yet found nothing. Most of his staff were elderly servants brought from the prince's mansion, their backgrounds spotless. Has your Majesty had a pulse check recently? I asked, feigning casualness. Yuan Lang, do you also think my health is failing? Not long ago, when I took the fourth prince horseback riding, I was gasping for breath after just one lap. I immediately summoned the imperial physician. After a lengthy pulse diagnosis, the physician merely attributed it to seasonal transition weakening the imperial constitution, prescribing several warming tonics. With no immediate danger, it seemed the mastermind behind this had yet to make their move. I breathed a slight sigh of relief and found an excuse to dismiss him. He lingered, glancing back every few steps, his eyes filled with sorrowful reproach. I pretended not to notice. The fourth prince's knack for causing trouble truly grew with age. The crown prince had him study, but instead, he found some obscure book and learned how to make gunpowder. He blew up Consort Roan's small kitchen beyond recognition. After causing the disaster, he slipped out of the palace, leaving Consort Roan staring at the ruins, unable to cry. After several such incidents, Jingshu Palace, once the most splendid hall in the 6 palaces, had been reduced to a ramshackle doghouse, patched up everywhere. Anything that could be blown up, he had blown up. Weeping, Consort Roan came to me carrying a small bundle. Your Majesty, I can no longer live there. Please take me in for a few days. The crown prince frowned upon hearing this. Mother, let me go fetch my fourth brother back and discipline him properly. No, no. Consort Roan waved her hands frantically, her tears still streaming. That child has such delicate skin, a light tap leaves him red and swollen for hours. He can't endure punishment. Yet no one could have imagined that at the tender age of 40, he would indeed develop an improved explosive formula. Alas, his very first experiment blew up the emperor's wine cellar. The scent of wine wafted through the palace for 3 days, intoxicating enough to make anyone stumble. The emperor was furious, stomping his feet. I suddenly realized this child might be an unparalleled genius. He was too clever, but this brilliance was entirely misplaced, not in the ways of governing a nation. Just after his 12th birthday, little Ford took a wandering sage as his master, determined to travel far and wide with him, venturing into the world. Consort Roan's temples turned white with worry overnight, yet she couldn't dissuade him. Your Highness, what are we to do? She paced restlessly, overcome with dread. The world is treacherous, and he is so innocent. Let him go. Consort Roan looked up in shock. Me, Shao Si is wise. The palace is but a cage to him. Silence fell upon the chamber, broken only by Consort Roan's sobs. Suddenly, a figure darted inside. It was Shao Si, who had been eavesdropping at the door. He hurried to Consort Roan's side, coaxing and teasing her. Mother, please don't cry. My master is a renowned healer in the world. Once I've mastered his skills, if you ever have a headache or fever, your son can cure you with ease, no need to summon the imperial physicians. Consort Roan sobbed, but if you just leave with your master like this, I'm afraid I'll fret myself into serious trouble. Shao Si turned to me with pleading eyes, his gaze earnest. I didn't respond immediately, instead shifting my gaze to the crown prince beside me. Ener, what do you think? The crown prince, mother, fourth brother is no longer a child who needs constant supervision. He has grown up. With just those words, I understood his stance. He too believed that beyond the palace walls lay the world Shao Si truly desired. Looking back over the years, every time Shao Si returned from outside the palace, he always brought back delightful novelties. The novel fireworks at the Mid-Autumn Banquet, the lotus lanterns that bloomed slowly in water, and the mechanical beast at the New Year's feast that drew thunderous applause. Each was a testament to his dexterous hands and extraordinary ingenuity. Fourth brother, if you insist on traveling far with your master, finish the lessons I assigned you the other day first. Come on, let's go to the study. Little Fourth's shoulders slumped, and he followed his elder brother out, looking dejected. Consort Roan watched their retreating figures, her eyes brimming with tears. Your Highness, why does the crown prince indulge his every whim? What if? Please persuade him for me. Give it 3 more years, until little Fourth turns 15. At the very least, wait until then before letting him leave the palace. Me, Bright Moon, he's grown up now. It's time he learned to make his own decisions. But he's still so young. Consort Roan blurted out. I met her gaze. Fourth prince is young, so you intend to place every burden solely on the crown prince's shoulders? Her body trembled, pupils suddenly contracting as panic flashed in her eyes. Your Highness. What are you saying? I don't understand. Didn't we agree to let fourth prince live as a carefree, leisurely prince? Mingyue, can you truly bear to let the crown prince face this alone? She staggered backward, collapsing into her chair, her face as pale as paper. Your Highness, you. I sighed softly, finally piercing through the veil of pretense. When I awoke, I was only a day behind you. Consort Rong snapped her head up, her eyes brimming with disbelief. After a long moment, she closed her eyes in resignation, tears silently tracing her cheeks. So, Your Highness knew all along. I said, Mingyue, we both know that even without my pressure, the Crown Prince has never slacked off these years. That child was born to be an emperor. But they're still so young. Tears welled in her eyes. As mothers, we can't be so selfish. You've raised fourth young master exceptionally well. I interrupted gently, but how can you be certain he couldn't become his elder brother's greatest asset? I recalled last year when I brought fourth young master's gunpowder formula to father. He clutched that paper, his face aglow with excitement. Father and son locked themselves in the study for a full day and night. When they emerged, father's face glowed with satisfaction, repeating 3 times, a weapon of national importance. The improved cannons now used by the army were actually all designed by fourth son. The reason they were kept secret was precisely to prevent potential threats before they arose. The year His Majesty passed away, the Imperial Medical Bureau exhausted all efforts, yet they couldn't even determine when he had been poisoned. Had he lived just a few more days, until the Crown Prince could stand on his own? A flicker of hope passed through Consort Rong's eyes. Your Majesty means. I don't know if Xiaoxi can do it. But since he is my son, I will not allow him to hide forever under his elder brother's wings, living in complacency. The next morning, as fourth prince departed the palace, Consort Rong secretly slipped a thick stack of banknotes into his luggage. The crown prince handed him a private seal, instructing him to use it at the Heaven and Earth Money House should he run short of funds while traveling. Time flew by, and 2 years passed in the blink of an eye. During the Mid-Autumn Festival banquet, I was granted special permission to recuperate in the palace due to a cold. Unexpectedly, less than an hour into the feast, news arrived. The emperor had newly bestowed the title of Consort Zhao upon a woman. Consort Rong hurried over from the banquet, her face filled with puzzlement. She's a dancer, breathtakingly beautiful. When she danced, butterflies actually alighted in her hair. In my previous life, there was no such person as Consort Zhao at this time. Indeed, during the Mid-Autumn Festival of my past life, the Crown Prince had already begun to stir restlessly. Now, strangely, he remained quiet. In recent days, Xiaoxi wrote saying he would return to the palace, but heavy snowfall delayed his journey. It has indeed been a long time since new consorts entered the palace. Perhaps. It's just a coincidence. Within 2 months, Consort Zhao leaped several ranks, being directly elevated to imperial consort. Such rapid advancement astonished not only Consort Liang and others but sparked widespread discussion even in the former court. Even when the emperor favored Consort Rong most, she ascended step by step. Never had there been such a precedent of skipping multiple ranks. Empowered by her new status, imperial consort Zhao grew increasingly brazen. Today, amidst heavy snowfall, she ordered Consort Rong and the other court ladies to perform the full kneeling and bowing ritual in the snow. They knelt for a full stick of incense before she finally permitted them to rise. When Lady Qing hurriedly came to report, I rushed straight to the imperial garden. From afar, I saw Consort Zhao reclining in a heated pavilion sheltered from the wind. Clutching a hand warmer and wrapped in a heavy cloak, she leisurely sipped hot tea. Outside the pavilion, Consort Rong and several other consorts knelt in a patch of snow. Their shoulders and hair were dusted with a light layer of snow, each face turning pale from the cold. Upon seeing me arrive, Consort Zhao merely straightened slightly, a faint smile playing at her lips. Your Majesty, the Empress has arrived. My body is heavy, and His Majesty has specially permitted me to forego the formal bows. I trust you won't take offense? I did not respond to her words, instead turning to address the group in the snow with a gentle tone. Rise, all of you. They helped each other to their feet. Consort Rong, the frailest, swayed dangerously and nearly collapsed, but Consort Liang swiftly caught her in her arms. My gaze darkened as I turned to Consort Zhao. What offense have they committed to warrant kneeling in this freezing snow? Consort Zhao took a leisurely bite of pastry, her smile undimmed. I often hear His Majesty praise Your Majesty's strict governance of the palace. Why then did they fail to pay their respects upon seeing me? Perhaps Your Majesty's usual kindness has made them forget the rules of respect and hierarchy. I merely administered a small punishment on Your Majesty's behalf to awaken them. Consort Liang could no longer contain herself and glared at Consort Zhao. You clearly resent Consort Rong's former favor and deliberately humiliate her. We merely wish to avoid further words with you, yet you take personal revenge. How dare you? Consort Zhao's expression darkened instantly. Guards! Gag this vile woman. How dare you interrupt my conversation with the Empress? Two matrons stepped forward at her command. Let's see who dares. I stepped forward and delivered a resounding slap across her face. Caught off guard, Consort Zhao clutched her cheek, her eyes widening in shock. This slap is for your blindness. My voice was icy. Consort Liang served His Majesty since his days in the private residence. She bore the eldest princess, and her maternal clan, the loyal and valiant Marquisate, is a house of loyal martyrs. How dare you insult her so lightly? Before she could react, I struck again with my other hand. This slap is for overstepping your bounds. The rules I set for those I favor are mine alone to enforce. When did it become your place to lecture me? The third slap rang out, crisp and sharp. This slap is for your disregard of hierarchy. You claim to understand protocol, yet dare to disrespect me while pregnant. Tell me, do I not deserve to punish you? After 3 slaps, Consort Zhao's cheeks were swollen and her hair disheveled, her earlier arrogance completely gone. I gently shook my wrist. TSK. In my past life, 3 strikes like that would have knocked out her front teeth. Still a bit rusty, I suppose. Consort Zhao's shriek, Empress, how dare you, before she could finish, she suddenly glanced behind me. Her face paled, and clutching her stomach, she collapsed weakly to the side. Your Majesty. My belly hurts terribly. Lan Xiang, who had been waiting nearby, acted swiftly and steadied her. What is happening? I turned around only to see Consort Rong, pale-faced, fainting into Consort Liang's arms. Amidst the commotion, the Emperor strode forward, scooping up Consort Zhao without hesitation and barking, summoned the imperial physicians. He didn't even glance at Consort Rong. Suppressing my rage, I ordered her to be carefully carried back to her quarters. But as we waited, the imperial physician still hadn't arrived. The palace maid sent by Consort Liang to fetch him returned with reddened eyes. All physicians have been summoned to Jingde Palace. Consort Zhao claims her pregnancy is unstable and won't let any leave. Does she alone require so many physicians? Consort Liang slammed her palm on the table in fury. A mere dancer has turned the palace upside down. Does bearing the dragon's seed make Consort Rong no longer the birth mother of the 4th prince? I turned and retrieved the imperial sword. This blade was a glorious gift bestowed upon our family by the founding emperor. My father had placed it in my hands during my wedding ceremony. Consort Liang and the others immediately rose. Your Highness, we shall accompany you. I fastened my cloak. Unnecessary. Stay here and watch over Consort Rong. I'll be back shortly. Inside Jingde Palace. Consort Zhao was sobbing in the emperor's embrace. Your Majesty, if anything happens to our child, I shall not live either. I kicked open the palace doors and strode in, sword drawn. If anything happens to Consort Rong today, I'll make you kneel and beg her forgiveness. Consort Zhao shrieked in terror, burrowing deeper into the emperor's embrace. Empress! Storming in with a sword, do you intend to assassinate the sovereign? The emperor's pupils contracted sharply as he instinctively leaned back. Empress! What? What are you doing? The sword's edge shifted, pointing directly at Consort Zhao. Must I spell out the emperor's intent in mobilizing the entire Imperial Medical Bureau here? Consort Rong remains unconscious, her fever unrelenting. Might I ask, does Consort Zhao's pregnancy truly require the entire Imperial Medical Bureau? The emperor froze at these words. Consort Rong. Before he could finish, Consort Zhao clutched her stomach and groaned again. He sat bolt upright, clearing his throat. Consort Rong is surely feigning illness. She's always been willful, this is nothing new. His words barely left his lips when he pointed casually at the young physician in the corner. You. Accompany the Empress to examine her. Furious, I laughed bitterly. With a flick of my sword, Consort Zhao's hairpin snapped, scattering jewels and ornaments across the floor. This servant requests Physician Huang. Consort Zhao urgently grabbed the emperor's sleeve. Your Majesty. Physician Huang is a master of gynecology, having tended to this servant throughout the pregnancy. If he leaves and the imperial heir suffers harm. Empress. The emperor's face darkened. The physician has been assigned to you. Now withdraw. I stared directly into his evasive eyes, my sword grip trembling slightly. Had his bond with Consort Rome truly been so fragile all these years? Father, mother. The crown prince's voice echoed from beyond the door. A single glance sufficed for him to grasp the chamber's turmoil. Take your mother back at once. The emperor waved his sleeve in rebuke. The physician has been assigned to you. Stop this nonsense. Consort Zhao nestled against the emperor, shooting me a triumphant glance. The crown prince pressed down on my sword-wielding hand. Mother, Consort Rome's illness cannot be delayed. He turned to the young physician. What is your name? Your humble servant, Liang Si. Liang Si? My heart stirred slightly as I glanced at him. Back in the palace, Consort Rome remained unconscious. The cloth on her forehead was changed repeatedly, while Consort Liang and the others paced anxiously. Her fever won't break. What are we to do? The crown prince immediately gestured. Physician Liang, examine Consort Rong at once. Consort Liang froze. Why has only this unfamiliar young physician come? Where are Physician Huang and the others? Liang Si calmly stepped forward to take Consort Rong's pulse. Within moments, his expression darkened. I immediately dismissed everyone except Consort Liang. Speak. How is your mother? Liang Si knelt before me solemnly. Fortunately, Her Majesty the Empress brought Consort Rong back in time. This is no ordinary fever, she has been poisoned by cold toxins. Had we delayed even half a cup of tea longer, the poison would have invaded her heart meridians. Even if Hua Tuo himself returned to life, he could not have saved her. Consort Liang's hand trembled. Poisoned? How could Consort Rong be poisoned? She's been with us the entire time today. She suddenly paused. I remember. When we encountered Consort Zhao in the Imperial Garden, Consort Rong touched her to steady her. Can this poison be cured? I asked urgently. Xiaoxi patted his chest, a sly gleam in his eyes. With your son here, of course it can be cured. Only then did I breathe a sigh of relief. Consort Liang looked from him to us, her face filled with confusion. Wait. Why does he call Consort Rong mother consort? Could he be Xiaoxi? She cupped Xiaoxi's face to examine him closely. But Xiaoxi was born with such delicate features. This face is far too ordinary. Xiaoxi smiled and peeled off a mask of human skin, thin as a cicada's wing. Aunt Liang, it's me. Crown Prince, fourth brother, you've finally returned. I turned to the Crown Prince. When did you know? Fourth brother secretly contacted me 3 days ago. Not only this son, but Father Emperor has also known for some time. Your father knew too? My heart tightened. The Crown Prince nodded. A month ago, Father suffered sudden angina and fainted multiple times. He secretly summoned me and privately drafted his will. The imperial physicians examined him from every angle, yet found no cause for his illness. But after Zhao Yuer danced and gained favor, His Majesty's ailments miraculously vanished without any medicine. Your son secretly investigated and discovered that whenever Consort Zhao attended His Majesty closely, his angina would ease. She was like a living catalyst. And this Zhao Yuer? She was a dancer sought out from the common folk by Xiong'an, son of the Lingnan Marquis. Skilled in the palm dance, she was presented to the palace as a gift. By now, Xiaoxi had prepared the antidote and carefully administered it to Consort Rong. Turning with grave expression, he continued, Mother, I suspect father was not ill but poisoned. Consort Zhao likely carries a mother bug. Lingnan again. Sure enough, the former crown prince is stirring once more. Xiaoxi acquired medical skills among the common folk. I placed him within the Imperial Medical Academy. Xiaoxi continued, the emperor suffers not from a heart ailment, but from bug poison. Bug poison. No wonder in my previous life, the imperial physicians only diagnosed poisoning after the emperor's demise. When the host dies, the bug dies too. Left inside the body, it becomes a deadly poison, leading the imperial physicians to misdiagnose. Consort Liang murmured in a daze, that blockhead of an emperor. How could he devise such an intricate plan? I asked the crown prince, this idea. You and fourth son discussed it together, didn't you? Crown prince, it was this son who advised his majesty to keep consort Zhao. With the enemy in the dark and us in the light, it's better to keep her under our watch. Besides, fourth brother recognized that consort Zhao harbors the mother bug, while father emperor carries the offspring bug. I looked at fourth brother. Are you confident in removing the bug? Though I've never done it myself, father emperor said he wouldn't blame me even if I failed. Fourth brother paused. If I can't manage it, we can still ask the master. But she's advanced in years and recently afflicted with dementia, alternating between lucidity and confusion. After learning the truth, I instructed Xiao Si to continue playing the role of Liang Si for now. Consort Liang wiped the tears from her eyes. Your Majesty. Do you have only days left to live? Gazing at the deepening dusk beyond the window, I recalled the day the emperor passed away in my previous life. Only 1 month remained until that day. After a stick of incense burned, Consort Rong slowly regained consciousness. She clutched Xiao Si tightly, sobbing uncontrollably. Your imperial mother thought you'd found happiness elsewhere and would never return. Xiao Si gently patted her back. With your imperial mother in the palace, how could I ever not come back? Consort Rong wiped her tears and nudged him. Go. Kowtow to your mother. All these years, she hasn't a single day without missing you. I hurriedly stopped him. The palace was about to change. I was confined to my quarters by the emperor after causing a scene in Jinda Palace. Consort Rong, poisoned, lay in bed, often slipping into deep sleep. Rumors swirled throughout the palace, claiming Consort Zhao would soon replace the empress. The crown prince faced repeated rebukes lately, the emperor accusing him of ruthless tactics and lacking the magnanimity of a benevolent ruler. Father's letter inquired, has the emperor lost his mind? Or is he possessed? I replied immediately, ordering him to secure key strongholds while secretly dispatching a contingent to the capital. At this moment, Imperial physician Huang confirmed Consort Zhao was carrying a male heir. Undercurrents churned within the palace. Outside the palace walls, rumors identical to those from my past life began to spread. The former crown prince, citing illegitimacy, raised an army from Lingnan. Yet barely 3 miles out, the rebel forces were ambushed and utterly annihilated by imperial troops. Self-drawn. Win. I pushed my tiles forward. Consort Rong shook her empty money pouch. Nothing left. You've won it all. Consort Liang raised an eyebrow. Want me to lend you some? Consort Rong's eyes lit up, then she shook her head reluctantly. Forget it. You're a loan shark, charge double for every coin lent. Too greedy. Zhou Mei clutched her money box timidly. I have no money to lend. Don't look at me. Rong Fei fumed. Yesterday you won 3 times over, and the day before you raked in a fortune. Where's the money? Liang Fei teased. Why argue with her? Everyone knows Zhou Mei is a money pit, it only goes in, never out. I motioned for Lanxiang to fetch paper and brush. No problem, we can keep a running tally. Consort Rong rolled up her sleeves. I refuse to believe my luck will stay this rotten. Before she could finish, a cough seized her. Since her poisoning, her health had never fully recovered, though Xiao Si secretly tended to her often. I wonder how His Majesty has been lately. Only when she lost everything did she remember the emperor. His Majesty's infatuation with Consort Zhao had reached absurd heights, he even crawled on the floor for her to ride like a horse. Consort Rong gritted her teeth. He never fawned over me like that back then. I cleared my throat, shot her a look, and casually pushed over the tiles before me. I win. Consort Rong stared at my hand, utterly dumbfounded. As the day of the palace coup from my past life drew nearer, I stared blankly out the window at the swirling snow. Consort Rong silently draped a cloak over my shoulders. Your Highness, since we've both been reborn, why weren't you born a man? I turned to her in surprise. If you were a man, you'd be far more formidable than the emperor. She leaned against the window, her eyes brimming with longing. Then you'd be the emperor, and I'd still be your consort. That's a nice thought. I chuckled. What about the emperor? Make him the empress. We shared a smile. Only she dared to dream like that. In my past life, you accompanied me to my death. This life, I'll protect you until your days are safe and sound. Before she finished speaking, Eunuch Yin stumbled in, collapsing to his knees. The emperor. The emperor has passed away. Consort Rong staggered, her face turning deathly pale. Her icy fingers clutched mine tightly. What was bound to happen has finally happened. I ordered the palace gates opened. Where is the crown prince? Eunuch Yen wept uncontrollably. The crown prince has gone to the front hall, but the court is in utter chaos. Chancellor Fu and others claim His Majesty murdered his father to seize the throne. They also say the crown prince is not your Majesty's biological son. Consort Roan looked at me frantically. I squeezed her hand tightly. Come with me. The front hall was already in utter chaos. Consort Zhao stood in the center of the hall, her pregnant belly prominent. Upon seeing me, she flashed a smug smile. Your Majesty, the Empress. To commit such an unthinkable act as swapping the crown prince, how dare you? I met the crown prince's anxious gaze, gave a slight nod, then turned my calm eyes to Consort Zhao. What evidence do you have? Minister Fu stepped forward sharply. Empress! You have corrupted the imperial bloodline, your treachery deserves death. Officials behind him echoed his accusations. This is clearly a bastard child swapped in to usurp the throne. General Yuan's achievements have made him a threat to the throne, he's long harbored treasonous intentions. Since the crown prince is a fraud and the fourth prince unfit to rule, the fifth prince in Consort Zhao's womb must inherit the throne. Outside the hall, the wind and snow grew fiercer. I surveyed the crowd and spoke slowly. Who says the crown prince is a fake? Court physician Huang stood before the hall and declared, this humble servant can testify that Consort Zhao indeed carries a royal heir. I understood. So that was it. The Lingnan rebels had long been crushed by father. Now they sought to openly replace the heir within the court. In my previous life, I never saw the face of the former crown prince before I was burned to death in the palace. I never imagined he had replaced Imperial Physician Huang at some point. Was it last year when Imperial Physician Huang accidentally fell from his horse and injured his face? After his face healed, large scars remained. Even if someone thought he looked different, no one suspected anything. Where is the evidence? I demanded coldly. A hoarse voice suddenly cut through the air. This old servant can testify, the crown prince is not born of Her Majesty the Empress. Nanny Ching stepped into the hall. The court erupted in uproar. Consort Rong stared in disbelief. Nanny Ching, you. She knelt solemnly before us, her voice clear. Though not born of the Empress, the crown prince is the biological child of Consort Rong. The entire hall was stunned. Someone blurted out, Consort Rong is so frivolous and playful, how could she possibly bear such a brilliant? Consort Rong snapped, how dare you imply I'm useless, incapable of bearing a genius? Nanny Ching raised her hand to the heavens and swore. If this old servant has spoken a single false word, may I be subjected to 1,000 cuts. She turned to Imperial Physician Huang, you demanded proof the crown prince was not the empress's. I have spoken. Now, release my family. Imperial Physician Huang's face turned ashen. You're mocking me? Nanny Ching retreated to Consort Rong's side, her voice unwavering. Imperial Physician Huang sought to make this servant betray her mistress. Yet both princes share the emperor's bloodline. Every word I spoke is true. The crown prince stared blankly at me, then at Consort Rong. The officials exchanged glances, murmuring among themselves. If the crown prince is Consort Rong's son, his succession would be legitimate. But Consort Rong secretly swapped the princes, her crime deserves execution. I immediately stepped forward, shielding Consort Rong behind me. How dare you? The plan to swap the princes was mine. The crown prince gasped, Mother, why? Why? Was I supposed to say that in my past life, the fourth prince was a useless emperor who hadn't even secured the throne before being shot dead on the dragon chair? I fixed my gaze on him, speaking slowly and deliberately. Because you were born with the makings of an emperor. The fourth prince craved freedom and had no ambition for this. Both of you are my children. Consort Rong, and both are my children. Consort Zhao trembled with rage. I refuse to believe it. With the emperor dead, they can twist black into white. Seize them all! Now! But despite her shouts, not a single guard approached. I waved my hand, and guards immediately surrounded the hall. Are you waiting for those rebel soldiers who snuck in outside the hall? Having lived this life twice, how could I come unprepared? Father gave me a squad of secret guards. Perfect for dealing with those rebels. Zhao Yiwer, the child in your womb isn't the emperor's bloodline at all. You're lying. Whether it's a lie or not, imperial physician Huang knows best. Huang forced himself to remain calm. Consort Zhao is naturally carrying the dragon's heir. At that moment, two figures slowly emerged from behind the screen behind the dragon throne. Xiao Si supported the emperor as he appeared before the crowd. Everyone thought they were seeing ghosts. Zhao Yiwer, I have never favored you. How could you conceive the dragon's heir? Consort Rong wept with joy. Your Majesty. You weren't dead? Xiao Si smirked triumphantly. A mere heart-devouring bug? No need for my master to intervene. The emperor turned to Consort Zhao. Your proximity eased my angina. Such peculiarity, how could I not be wary? You used hallucinatory incense daily, making me believe I favored you. Little did I know I remained fully lucid all along. As for the child in your womb, Your Majesty, is it yours? Huang the imperial physician, his identity exposed, shed his disguise. Eighth brother, you're not entirely useless. But you cannot deny this, you murdered your father to seize the throne. He commanded Fu Xiong. Bring the person outside the palace in. Fu Xiong wiped his sweat and glanced at me. The old fox, seeing the tide had turned, knew whom to curry favor with now. I gave a slight nod. Moments later, guards escorted an elderly woman into the hall. Dr. Huang urgently asked, Tell me, am I truly of the late emperor's bloodline? The old woman shook her head. No, you're not. He froze, staring at her intently. What did you say? You clearly said I was. The old woman patted her chest. Just teasing you. You scared me to death. Were you going to eat me or something? She looked up and saw Xiao Si, her face immediately lighting up. Xiao Si. Xiao Si stepped forward. Master, why did you take so long? She tore off the human skin mask covering her face. Did I play the part convincingly, Master? Didn't embarrass you, did I? Xiao Si gave her a thumbs up. You were perfect. Long before Xiao Si left the palace, I had sent him to find Su Lao Lao, the woman from my past life who could prove the late crown prince's identity. All of this was part of our plan. The late emperor never knew that the man who had an affair with consort Zhou was born with a congenital defect, making it impossible for him to have any offspring. Xiao Si's master disguised himself as Nanny Su, while the real Nanny Su had long been placed in a safe location by my father. Even if the late crown prince truly possessed royal blood, now that the empire was secured, I would never allow anyone to disrupt this hard-won peace. Court physician Huang, no, Zhao Yan, grinned maniacally. Yuan Lang. You truly have a fine son. He glared at me with venom. You were the first to break your vows, you wretch. I met his gaze with calm composure. I am a daughter of the Yuan family, and more importantly, the crown princess designated by the late emperor. Whoever ascends the throne, my position remains unchanged. My father's power had destined me solely for the crown prince's consort. If not the Xiaoyao prince, then another imperial son. Zhao Yan, I never harbored the slightest affection for you. I ordered the arrest of Zhao Yan, Prime Minister Fu, and all the traitors. This conflict, spanning 2 lifetimes, finally drew to a close. As my guard dropped, darkness flooded my vision and I fainted. When I awoke, Xiao Si and the crown prince stood by my bedside. Mother. They spoke in unison, their eyes brimming with concern. I raised my hand to gently stroke their heads. Xiao Si, do you blame your mother? Xiao Si nuzzled my palm like he did when he was little. Mother, you did the right thing. If I had become emperor, the empire would have fallen within half a year. He overestimated himself. It wouldn't have taken half a year, just 3 months. The crown prince grasped my hand. Mother. Ener, your mother, and I have never regretted our decision back then. Consort Roan fluttered in from outside, pushing aside the 2 boys' heads to cling to me, sobbing. Thank goodness you're safe. You scared me half to death. The emperor followed behind, clearing his throat dryly. Consort Roan, I'm still here. Without turning back, Consort Roan finally asked after her tears subsided. When will you abdicate? The emperor nearly fainted. Tomorrow. Consort Roan coaxed him. Look how hard you've worked for decades. It's time to enjoy some peace. Little Fourth said if you worry less, you could live another few decades. But I never imagined that on the very night the crown prince ascended the throne, Consort Roan would sneak over to ask me. Your Highness, shall we leave the palace? 3 months later, we took Little Fourth and the emperor, now properly addressed as Master Zhao, and settled in a riverside mansion in Jiangnan. Within half a year, Consort Liang, Consort Zhou, and the others were all brought out. Soon, the card table was set up in the courtyard again, the shuffling of cards clattering ceaselessly throughout the night. Zhao 8 had the worst luck at cards. After losing everything, he could only write a letter back to the capital that very night. My son, send gambling capital immediately. Consort Roan, disgusted by his losing streak, simply locked him out of the room. Don't come in tonight, I don't want to catch your luck. The moon shone brightly amidst sparse stars. Sitting on the veranda drinking together, Lord Zhao and eunuch Yan watched the consorts laughing and playing inside, unable to suppress their musings. Why do I feel the Empress resembles the Emperor more than I do? Eunuch Yan suppressed a chuckle as he poured him wine. 8th Master, this old servant speaks plainly. Things are quite good as they are now. Indeed, they were quite good. In this lifetime, we could finally live according to our own hearts. The end.